Hi, I'm Marty Nemko. I've just finished reading Madame Bovary, one of the best written pieces of classic literature ever, and fully comprehensible. And amid its 400 pages, the following 2.5 pages is my very favorite. It really speaks to the hypocrisy that often exists in love. This is of how Rodolphe dumped Madame Bovary. This is chapter 13, part 2 of the book. By the way, I feel like I want to give credit to Lydia Davis, the translator, just magnificent translation. As soon as Rodolphe arrived home, he sat down quickly at his desk under the stag's head that hung as a trophy on the wall. But once the pen was in his hand, he could not think of anything to write. So, leaning on his elbows, he began to reflect. Emma, that's Madame Bovary, seemed to have receded into a remote past, as if the decision he had just made to dump her had all at once placed an immense distance between them. To recapture something of her, he went to the cupboard by the head of his bed and took out an old Reams cookie tin, in which he was in the habit of putting the letters women sent to him, and there escaped from it a smell of damp dust and withered roses. First he saw a pocket handkerchief covered with pale droplets. It was one of hers, from when she had had a nosebleed, once when they were out together, and he had forgotten. Near it, knocking against the corners of the box, was the miniature that Emma had given him. He found her clothing pretentious, and her sidelong gaze most pitiful in effect. Then, because he had been studying this picture and summoning up a recollection of its original, Emma's features gradually became confused in his memory, as if the living face and the painted face, rubbing together, had obliterated each other. Finally, he read some of her letters. They were full of explanations concerning their trip, as short, technical, and urgent as business letters. He wanted to look at the long ones again, the ones from earlier times, in order to find them at the bottom of the tin. Rodolphe disturbed all the others, and mechanically he began rummaging through the pile of papers and other things, rediscovering in the disarray some bouquets, a garter, a black mask, pins, and hair. Hair! Brown, blonde, some of which even caught on the iron fittings of the box and broke when it was opened. Thus idling through his souvenirs, he examined the handwriting and the styles of the letters, as varied as their spelling. They were tender or jolly, facetious, melancholy. Some demanded love, others money. A single word would cause him to recall certain faces, certain gestures, the sound of a voice sometimes. However, he recalled nothing. Indeed, these women, flocking into his thoughts all at the same time, impeded and diminished one another, as though leveled by the sameness of his love. And picking up fistful of the disordered letters, he amused himself for a few minutes, letting them fall in cascades from his right hand into his left. At last, bored, sleepy, Rodolphe carried the tin back to the cupboard, saying to himself, "What a load of nonsense," which summed up his opinion, for his pleasures, like children in a schoolyard, had so trampled his heart that nothing green now grew there, and whatever passed that way, more heedless than the children, left behind not even its name, as they did carved on a wall. "Come now," he said to himself, "let's get started," and he wrote, "Be brave, Emma, be brave. I don't want to become the ruin of your existence." That's true after all, thought Rodolphe. I'm acting in her own interest. I'm being honest. "Did you weigh your decision carefully? Were you aware of the abyss into which I was drawing you, my poor angel? You weren't, were you? You were going ahead, foolishly trusting, believing in happiness in the future. Oh, poor wretches that we are, lunatics!" Rodolphe stopped at this point, looking for some good excuse. What if I told her I'd lost my entire fortune? Oh no, and anyway, that wouldn't put a stop to it. I would just have to go through the whole thing again later. Can one ever make women of that sort listen to reason? He reflected, then added, "I will never forget you, believe me, and I will continue to be deeply devoted to you. But one day, Sooner or later, this ardor would no doubt have diminished, such being the destiny of all things human. We would have had moments of weariness, and who knows, even, if I would not have suffered the atrocious pain of witnessing your remorse and partaking of it myself, since I would have been the cause of it. The very idea of the sorrows that burden you is torture to me. Emma, forget me. Why did I ever have to meet you? Why were you so beautiful? Is it my fault? Oh, Lord, no. Fate is to blame. Only fate. Now there's a word that always has a nice effect. Fate. Fate, he said to himself. Oh, if you had been one of those women with a frivolous heart, who certainly exist, I could have selfishly experimented without putting you at risk. But the delicious exaltation of feeling that is at once your charm and your torment has prevented you from understanding, adorable woman that you are, the falseness of our future position. I, too, did not think about it at first, and I laid down to rest in the shade of that ideal happiness, as in the poisonous shade of the fatal machineel tree, without foreseeing the consequences. Perhaps you'll think I'm giving this up out of greed. Oh well, too bad, doesn't matter. I must be done with it. The world is cruel, Emma. Wherever we had gone, it would have pursued us. You would have had to submit to indiscreet questions. It was an affair. Calumny, scorn, perhaps insult. You insulted, oh! When my wish is that I might seat you on a throne. When I will carry the thought of you away with me like a talisman. For I am punishing myself by exile from all the harm I have done you. I am going away. Where? I have no idea. I have lost my reason. Adieu. Be good always. Preserve the memory of the wretch who lost you. Teach my name to your child so that she may repeat it in her prayers. The wicks of the 2 candles were flickering. Rodolphe stood up to go close the window, and when he had sat down again said, I think that's all. Oh, one more thing, for fear she'll come pestering me. I will be far away when you read these sad lines, for I am determined to flee as quickly as possible, so as to avoid the temptation of seeing you again. This is no time for weakness. I will come back, and perhaps in days to come we will talk together quite calmly of our old love. Adieu. And there was one last adieu, separated into 2 words. Adieu, which he judged to be in excellent taste. I think that means to God or something, I'm not sure. Now, how should I sign it? He asked himself. Your devoted? Nah. Your friend? Yes, that's it. Your friend. He reread his letter, and it seemed good to him. Poor little woman, he thought with emotion. She'll think I have no more feeling than a stone. There should have been a few tears on it, but I can't cry. It's not my fault. Then, having poured some water into a glass, Rodolphe dipped his finger in it and let it fall from above, a fat drop, which made a pale blot into the ink. Finally, looking to seal the letter, he used sealing wax back then, he came upon the Amor del Cor, I guess that's love of the heart, signet ring. I guess that's what he would stamp the sealing wax. This is scarcely appropriate under the circumstances. Oh well, doesn't matter. Anyway, that is the first part of Chapter 13 of Madame Bovary. I think it is one of the more painful, beautifully written sections I've ever read or anything in my life, and I thought you might therefore enjoy it. So, as usual, I welcome your thumbs up and accept your thumbs down. I welcome your comments, and certainly like it if you would share on your social media so that my efforts can have broader impact. And I am flattered if you choose to subscribe to my channel. In any event, I do thank you for watching. I am Marty Nemko.